Computer. All right. So, hey, hello, ladies. Hi, Di. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Janice or Janice, however, which way I say it. Hey, Beck. Hey, Tara. And hey, Bron. It's very nice to see you all. And of course, thank you so much for your support. And anybody that's coming back and watching this on recording, thank you also for being here. So, the first thing really is to thank you, because you could be anywhere right now doing anything else, but you're not. You're here with me or you're watching the recording, which means that to you and yourself, you are a very, very important time investment. So I thank you for being you and investing back into you. And always thank you for finding the content that I bring to life interesting and engaging, and I do know helpful for you. So I encourage you to have a pen and paper ready to take some notes. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to ask of you straight up. Okay, so pen and paper so you can take notes, and whatever you find the most enlightening, so your biggest aha or your biggest takeaway from tonight, if at some stage you can actually write about it. So not if we've done a little promo thing, but maybe tomorrow morning or a little later on tonight, if you can actually write about what you're learning. Because here's the thing about learning: when you turn around and you teach it to somebody, you then get the chance to learn it all over again. So I have that little motto, which is each one teach one. So anytime you are taking any type of learning, whether that be a book or an audio book or somebody's course, that you turn around and you teach one more person, so you solidify the learning for yourself. Agreed? All good? Excellent. Cool. And just going through, and everyone's on mute. All right. So a little bit about me. So yes, my background is in personal training and fitness, and I've been in the health and fitness and wellness industry for 11 years. But I have had a bigger, longer personal history and personal battle with emotional eating longer than 11 years. So really my, let's say the first instance that I ever remember being conscious of my body and conscious of the food going into my body would have been when I was about 8. So I had probably a well-meaning comment from a family member back then, which I took on to be a nasty comment and a heavy weight. And so then that began my cycle of mental, body, and food abuse. And that started at the age of 8. And I could probably, hand on my heart, tell you that I carried that for about 30 years. And so that's a long time to be carrying some suffering around food and body image and self-trust and self-worth. And so when I had this little idea the other day to do an emotional eating, little 7-day challenge, it kind of came from nowhere, but it also came from the knowing that in the 11 years that I have been inside this industry, I have spoken to so many people just like me. And that's where I want to really just help people to stop the battle. And I use the word war because you have one life and it is extremely precious. And your one life is to be lived fully and to be expressed fully in love, light, and joy, not in war and battle and suffering to food or to your mind or to your body. And so I hope, I trust, I know that what I'm going to deliver for you today and through this 7-day challenge will help you just to start to get some understanding on how you can move through a healing process of emotional eating, okay? Because a lifetime is a long time to be at suffering and war when what we're born in to be is light, love, and joy. Okay, so that is me. So just going to make sure that everyone's on mute and then just moving through to share the screen. So thank you for all those that have just jumped on as well. All right. So here it is. So thank you to also if you've been in the page and you've been commenting. So it's been really nice to be able to get an understanding of some of the issues that people are going through. And so this will require now a little bit of interaction. So when I talk about emotional eating, hands up if the emotion that you straight up come to when you think about eating is negative. Awesome. Okay. So, just you can come off mute and then just state the emotion and then put yourself back on mute again.
Anger.
Yep.
Anger's probably the main one. Anger and stress.
Yep. Thanks, Di.
Stress.
Yep.
Yeah, frustration, stress.
Yep. Stress.
Just being bored.
Bored. Yep.
Yep. I'm the same.
Yep. Okay. Bored. Bored, stressed, angry. Has anybody else got anything else?
Grief and sadness.
Grief and sadness. Awesome. Thank you. And now I have no idea how I got that little blue line on my slide. So that's super interesting. Anyway, I think this is the fun of it. All right. So thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Sorry?
I did it.
Ah, thanks, Tara. All right. So most people eat in a negative emotion. So like the ones that you've stated. So things like anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt. And then, of course, in the state, because I'm not sure that boredom is an emotion. Boredom is a state. So sadness, grief, definitely emotions. But of course, people eat in the state of boredom. Whereas what we should be moving to eating in, of course, is a positive emotion into love, light, joy, and happiness, and also in the state of community and connection. Don't worry, my kids are in the background. This is real life here, right? All right. And so generally what happens is when you talk about stress in particular, so even anger, and of course sadness and all of the other emotions that were mentioned, there is always going to be a trigger. There is always going to be something that has actually picked the scab off, right? So there's always going to be something there that has actually triggered the want to eat. Now, the word binge is there. This was just a grab that I grabbed. So don't think of this as we're not talking about binging, because some people won't identify with the word binge. They'll identify with just the overeating. So however you identify with your emotional eating pattern, whether it's just one thing, two things, three things, it's an overeat, or it's an overconsume, or it is a binge, then just hold with the word that means the most to you. Okay? But there is always something going on that is the trigger of the action of the overeating. And that's really what I want to help you understand. And then if we can look at this little chart here, where we can see the line that starts, let's say it starts from a point and then it goes to an arrow and then it moves into the binge. Would you think that it could be a good thing if we could put a line through the trigger and we were able to deal or heal off the trigger before it turned into a binge or an overeat or an eat or consumption? Do you think that that would be a good thing? Yeah, because that's what we're doing. Because of course, then the eating, it does give you temporary relief. Of course, I know what it feels like. I have accidentally, from time to time, way back when, fallen into a packet of Tim Tams to soothe and to feel better temporarily, to then only start the negative thought pattern, which then led me to feel worse physically, mentally, and emotionally, which then started the round again. Hands up if you've ever been on that cycle. Okay, awesome. And would we agree that it would be a great thing to put the line through the trigger to learn how to heal there? Yep, awesome, excellent. Thank you. I can see a few of you, so that's awesome. All right. So all negative emotion, I just want to help you understand the reason. So from a body perspective, so from a physiological perspective, why it is so important to heal in the trigger. So from a body perspective. So when you are eating in an air of stress, so I'm going to use the word stress now, because all negative emotion leads to a stress physiologically inside of the mind and then inside of the body. And stress, my beautiful friends, will actually kill you quicker than anything. Stress inside of this beautiful one vessel leads to an increase in inflammation. It leads to an increase in heart rate. It leads to an increase in blood pressure. And then inside of the gut, particularly where we're talking about food, it leads to a decrease in hydrochloric acid, which is your stomach acid. So eating in any negative emotion, which the body signals as a stress, drives blood away from the digestive process. And as I said, drives down hydrochloric acid, which means you actually cannot digest your food properly because the body is in a heightened state of fight, flight, flee, or also what I call fuck off mode, because it wants to run away from the threat. However, the threat is not real. The threat is what is going on inside of your mind from the trigger. Okay, so there are only two natural fears, therefore stresses, that we're born with: fear of loud noises and fear of falling. Everything else nowadays is a perception, a mindset, a thought around the act or event. And so same thing here. When I teach you the simple process of heal, it can be a healing from, you know, this process of eating, but it can also be a process of healing through other types of stresses in your life as well. So it not only is good for the food, but it is good for the body, and it is good for the mind, it's good for the soul, it's good for the life. Would that be cool? Okay. All right. So that's why it's so important to just, I think it's like, I don't mean to fear you or fearmonger you, but it is really, really important from a health perspective, a body perspective, to learn how to heal through the trigger. So your body is healthy and well, and you are living out a life that you're designed to live, which is long and vital. Okay. And to understand that negative emotions also have other damaging effects on the body. So sadness, of course, for those of you who said that they were eating through periods of sadness, then of course, you know, you are running away from something. You're running away from the sadness, and we'll get to this in a second. But I just want you to think about what the prime emotion is, that is the one that you are struggling with so much, and we will get to those in a second. Okay, but there are damaging effects of emotions inside of the body. So anger weakens the liver and it hurts the knees. Grief, it does some tightening and congestion in the chest. You know, anger again, next stage anger, which is bitterness and rage, is damaging for the kidneys. And I would ask you to explore emotional pain charts so you can understand the damaging emotions inside of the body. Okay. All right. So next one. So what I want you to do is I do want you to understand is your hunger. So we understand there's a trigger, and we're going to get to those in a second. But if you are feeling hungry, you must understand that there is a difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger. Okay. And so for most of you here, you may be aware of the Isagenix program, or other people may be also understanding of fasting. So I will touch on that in a second for why the fasting is so good to differentiate between emotional and physical hunger. Okay, but emotional hunger is a hunger that comes on suddenly. You know, that hunger that just can't be fixed unless you like drop your face into a bag of M&Ms, right? You know that one? Yeah. Or like you or a bag of chips, you know, or the pasta, you know, generally what we call like the comfort food, because we're trying to comfort ourselves from some emotion. All right. It must be satisfied instantly. And you crave for the specific food. Generally, it is a food that is high in carbohydrates because, again, this is a physiological drive of the body. So when I say physiological drive of the body, it means your body is actually taking over. And so when the body is in a high state in its parasympathetic nervous system, fight, flee, or fuck off, so the cortisol is ramped up, adrenaline is ramped up, blood is sent to the periphery so it can run away. And the prime source of fuel for the brain in the fuck off mode is sugar. So physiologically, the body primarily is going to turn to a sharp dose of carbohydrate-rich food for it to get fuel to fuck off. Cool? I hope that that makes sense to you. Cool? You eat quickly and usually in private, that's like true guilt eating, and you are not satisfied. You never have a full stomach. Okay. And of course, after eating, you have feelings of shame, guilt, and powerlessness. Okay. And I would also state that powerlessness is unworthiness. Okay. A deep sense of shame, guilt, unworthiness, and self-hate. All right. I've been there before many, many times. So these words that I'm using, I feel that I have full ownership to use. And if any of them are bringing up anything for you, I ask that you sit into those. And if you need to, we can have a private discussion. Okay. Physical hunger, your hunger comes on gradually. Okay. So it's like that little gurgling in the tummy. You're satisfied, but this hunger comes on gradually. And your needs can actually wait. There's lots of food. So a lot of food sounds good for you. So not just one particular type of food, but a lot of food sounds good to you. And you take your time eating with good company, and you'll stop eating when you're full if it's physical hunger. And after eating, you do not feel bad about yourself. Okay. You know that you have eaten to nourish what was a physical hunger. Okay. Does that make sense? This would be a super screenshot to take too, by the way. Okay. All right. So we know that emotional hunger, probably the biggest thing, I guess, I assume that people would be really aware of there, is that it's something that comes on super suddenly and you are satisfied immediately when you fell into the Tim Tams. Okay. But whereas true hunger comes on gradually and your need can definitely wait. All right. And then just also one of the other things, if we understand the body's physiological needs in times of emotional triggering and stress, then the body in its fuck off mode wants carbohydrates. Okay. So if you're super hungry, like for lettuce, then that's like a physical hunger. Okay. Make sense? Awesome. All right. So here is your little healing process. And I wish that I could see all of you here, but this is something that I'd love you to screenshot. And I definitely, definitely want you to write this out. So in the presence of the hunger, so you must halt. So you must stop and you must breathe, okay? And so when I say breathe, I mean diaphragmatically breathe. And what a diaphragmatic breath is, it's a big belly breath. So you know when you see babies breathing and they have the big tummy that goes out and the tummy that goes in, that's diaphragmatically breathing. So we can practice it now by putting one hand just above the heart and the other hand just above the belly button. And when you breathe in, your belly pushes out. So the hand on the belly button should move out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold. And then when you breathe out fully and completely, and the hand goes in. Okay, so breathe in, belly goes out. Hold, 1, 2, 3, breathe out. Hand comes in. Okay. And so anywhere you can do this. You can do this at work. You can do this at home. You can do this parked at the drive-through before you order. Or you can do this absolutely anywhere. And the reason that I'm asking you first to halt and stop and breathe diaphragmatically for 5 rounds. So breathing out, breathing in and out is 1 round. And I ask you to do that for a minimum of 5, is because that big, deep diaphragmatic breath is the quickest way to move the body back from its parasympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, flee, fuck off, into the sympathetic nervous system, which is the calm, relaxation, recharging, resting, and digesting. And so every single time from now, before you go to eat, I would ask for you to practice the breath. Because even if it is a physical hunger state, if you actually diaphragmatically breathe for 5 rounds before physical hunger eating, your body will come back into its sympathetic nervous system, which means it will be able to assimilate and digest food at a better rate because the body is calm, okay? And if you do this and you halt and you're in an emotional state, then I want you to ask yourself, actually in both times, what am I really hungry for? What am I really, really hungry for? Okay. If it is an emotional state, then you also need to be super honest. Maybe there's another H there for you need to be honest in the halt state. Because if when you ask yourself the question, what am I really hungry for? And your answer is love, or your answer is happiness, or your answer is joy, then you need to be radically honest with yourself and understand that that will not come from face planting into a packet of Tim Tams. You need to also be radically honest with yourself and ask yourself, why is it that I'm not happy? Why is it that I'm not joyful? Why is it that I'm not? Okay? You need to ask yourself those questions, which really comes down into the E, which is the exploring. Okay? So that's the exploring why I'm hungry and what am I truly hungry for. You've got to ask yourself the deep questions. All W questions. When did I eat last? Why could I be hungry? What am I feeling? What am I craving? And what am I truly hungry for? And why am I hungry for this? Okay. Remembering the checklist. Is it physical or is it emotional? Okay. I hope that this is making sense. I trust that it is. And then you need to acknowledge what you are feeling. If you are feeling an emotion, if you are feeling angry, this is the big one. This is the huge one. So take note of this one. If you are feeling an emotion, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, in a state of boredom, despair, grief, bitterness, then I ask you to name it, because if you are resisting feeling, then the emotional cycle will persist. And a lot of the times in conditioned life, we have been taught to brush emotion under the carpet, to not feel our feelings. You know, these statements, big girls don't cry, real men don't cry, you'll be okay, suck it up. Nobody wants to listen to your problems anyway. Nobody really cares about you or what you think. They're just happy that they're not you. Okay, does anybody resonate with those statements? Okay. So when you have an emotion come up, I want you to name it and to acknowledge it. And then I want you to sit in it. Now, this for some of you will be super uncomfortable because you're not friends with anger, or you're not friends with sadness, or you're not friends with fear, hurt, or guilt, or bitterness, or rage, or whatever the emotion is. But if you keep dampening it down and pushing it away, your cycle will continue until you can own and acknowledge and really explore where it has come from and actually sit in it really for about 5 minutes. Just say, I'm angry, or I'm sad, I'm feeling guilty. Just take it on in radical ownership and radical responsibility and sit in there. And if there are people around you, you can just tell them, I'm just feeling angry, I just need to be alone for a minute. And just while you sit in it, and then of course you're going to have some internal dialogue going on, and just be okay. Be okay with the ownership, and be okay with sitting in it. Now, I just want to talk about the most damaging emotion of anger and bitterness and rage. Now that shit, if it sits inside of your body, will do you some big damage, okay? And there are so many people that I know that get really angry and bitter and rageful with themselves because of the choices that they make, definitely around food, okay? So that is definitely where you need to look further back at the deeper past issues of where those ones have come from. And may I suggest something like pillow yelling, or blanket punching, or throwing a tantrum on your bed, or doing some boxing. Okay, all sounds really weird, but you need to be able to release that emotion from your body. You need to be able to release that molecule of emotion from your body. And just like when you sit in sadness or deep hurt or grief, that the molecule of emotion that you feel in those deep moments is tears, is crying. That is the release of that emotion from your body. And so same, if you sit in this little practice and the tears well up, then please allow them to flow, because those molecules of emotion are healing energy releasing from your body. Is that okay? Awesome. All right. And so the last bit is learning what can I do in this feeling? So what can I do? And how can I learn to trust myself and my feelings right now? Because same thing again, we've lost our ability to be able to feel our feelings and trust ourselves and really sit in it. And especially with eating, where there's been a lot of conditioning around clock eating, we've lost the ability to be able to feel true hunger, because we've been told that we need to eat at specific times, and we've been told to eat all the food on our plate. whereas we've lost the ability to be able to trust our inner guidance system and our inner intuition and our inner wisdom around food. So if you were there in that learning process, able to come back to the chart, which was asking yourself, am I truly physically hungry right now, or is this emotion? And then if you get to that point and it's still the emotion, go back and breathe and ask yourself all of the questions again. Halt, breathe. What am I really hungry for? Why am I hungry for this? What am I actually feeling? I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to own it. And what can I do with this feeling? What is it teaching me? How can I trust myself and my feelings some more? Okay. So that is it. I hope that it's been helpful. But what I might do is I'm just going to stop share. Hopefully everybody's got enough of those questions there. And then I'm just going to come back. There we are. Awesome. And I'm going to ask if you've got any questions before I go into the task for tonight. So there will be daily tasking for the 7 days of this Heal Emotional Eating Challenge. And your first task will start tonight. But if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to come out and come off and ask me anything that you need to ask.
Yes. Hi, Lisa. Tara here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. I've been an emotional eater most of my life, and I know one thing that used to be said to us was, if you're not really hungry, have a glass of water, because you might actually be thirsty rather than hungry. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. True. So there is the, I guess that's there are the body's physiological, can throw you up, like what can be a need to eat, but it can be thirst. It can throw you up a need to eat, but it can be in a craving for a physical thing. And I actually will put up a craving chart for you to explore on that page, because there are certain foods that we can crave which can signal nutrient deficiencies. So that's a super thing to understand. And then there is definitely also bacteria that can make us want to eat. And that's about it. But yeah, if you feel like it's not emotional and it's not physical, drink some water. There's absolutely going to be nothing wrong with drinking extra water. Like, seriously, like, can't go wrong.
Yeah. I myself crave cheese sometimes. And I know I've seen that post in Health Is Now about, substitutes and what you can have instead of, or what your body's lacking.
I'd have to have a look. I don't do dairy, so so I'll have a look at that for you. There was another thing actually that I was going to touch on with the emotional eating. Has anybody got any other questions before I touch on this side of things, which is the anybody got anything else? Hi, Deb. Nobody got anything? Awesome. Okay. Oh, Di?
I just wanted to ask if you did name it, the emotion, and you believe that you have a source of the reason as to why you emotionally, what do you do?
Then you learn, well, that would be, can you name it? Can you tell me what it is?
Like, for example, anger. And especially around this time of the year, losing both parents, sometimes I get angry that I feel it's, just unfair. It's just a natural thing. And then I get a bit angry that I've lost both of my parents so early, and then I emotionally eat. I mean, I don't go out and do what I used to do, like really binge eat, like everything in the cupboard almost.
Yeah. But
I realise when I'm doing it, and I put it down. But what do you suggest that you do in that scenario?
Well, I know that the fastest way out of any negative state is gratitude. So, it would be definitely, if I was in a state of anger this time of year because my loved ones weren't around in their physical, might I add, that I would be certainly expressing my love and gratitude for me being here because they were once here, and and knowing all of the great things. So the fastest way out of any negative state is always to come into gratitude. So always, yeah. And then I ask you to explore, is that sadness or is it anger? So, yeah. One of the other things with emotional eating, which I didn't touch on, which I meant to, and I'm glad I remembered, is the conditioned response to eating foods through a positive memory. So I love this one. It's like, so, you know, if you've got kids and you took them to the supermarket and you wanted those kids to be super well behaved and you said, just be really good for mummy and I'll get you a lollipop, right? And so you conditioned their good behavior into a lollipop. So every time that kid then does something positive, they then expect to be rewarded with food, okay? So sometimes even as adults, we actually have a positive reward conditioning around food. So that means, for instance, if we are looking at transforming our body, our mind, or our soul, and we tick off all our boxes in a day and we've done a good job, good girl, here's your reward. Okay, so we're not physically giving ourselves a reward, but our memory of reward is there. And so then a lot of the times, of the people that I've coached through like 11 years, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, I always eat a biscuit, or at the end of the day, I always eat a chocolate, or at the end of the day, I always have ABC. I'm like, okay. So is it because you're checking all of your boxes and good girl did a good job and had a good day, so she's conditioned into the memory of good girl, here, have a lollipop? Something super interesting to explore, okay? And I always I like to tell people, I'm like, you're not a dog. You don't need to be rewarded with food. So, and then please remember that if you have children, it's, you know, you don't need to reward your children for their good behavior anywhere in life with food. They just need to have your love and your words and your presence. And that is definitely how we can start cycling out of, you know, reward food behavior. Cool. Does that make sense? Yep.
Yeah, I got a question. It's sort of to do with probably Diana's question, except the fact that my parents actually haven't passed away, but they don't seem to want any contact with me. So, yes, they're still alive, but I feel, I guess, abandoned.
Yeah. That's a big emotion.
And I've done some counselling. And I've come a long way in the last 8 years, but it's like that, you know, peeling of an onion. You just peel one layer and you heal it, and then another layer is still there and you just keep going.
Yeah, so likelihood, especially this time of year or any other significant event in your life, when you, like your kids' birthdays, you know, you would be triggered by a sense of loss and abandonment because your parents aren't there to celebrate in the loving times that you have, that you feel that they should be having with your children. So there's a lot that we could talk about over that. One thing I like to try to remember is that even though they are our parents, they are humans, they are human beings, and we then as parents of our own children have our own beliefs and our values and our expectations that we would have as thinking of being grandparents, right? But your expectations may be different to your parents, and your parents may be different to yours. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, before 8 years ago, you know, they were in my life like all the time, every second day, and we moved, and I understand that, but they've just cut basically us off. So there's no conversations over the phone anymore. There's just nothing.
Okay. All right. We can talk about this some more. But it's definitely I would definitely be coming into gratitude for my parents gratitude for them making me who I am, and for my lines of my children. Sorry, my computer's going flat. And then understanding that people just do the best that they can with what they can at the time. So moving into something like the 4 agreements would be a good thing. And then us having a chat, because the biggest thing that you need to do there, I truly feel, is in the moment it's gratitude, but then the deeper work is forgiveness. So
Yep.
All right. Hopefully, maybe that helps other people. So, anything else? Hey, Lisa.
Hi, how are you? Thanks
Good.
for it's been awesome. With feelings of self-unworthiness surfacing, like I actually have intensive counselling and got over binge eating, and I thought it was a thing of the past for me. So, I mean, it's been 18 months and I hadn't fallen once, and in the last few months I have found that I have fallen into bad habits. And I do the breathing, and I'm pretty good at normally writing the cravings, but I have found that I'm giving in to them more and more. Would you suggest maybe even looking at maybe going back to counselling around those? I know why. I'm in a new relationship. It's a long distance relationship, and it brings up, it is things from the past which I thought I dealt with, but obviously I'm falling back into these bad habits.
Yeah, I'm just going to put you on a second because I'm just going to put you on mute. So there's a lot of things that I would do there. I would definitely be journaling to explore the emotion that's coming. So you're already like one step ahead, because you know that it's there and you're acknowledging it. But I would definitely be journaling around it happening, and then like not just one line journal either, by the way. I'm like really sitting in those questions from the heel and really exploring what the trigger is, and working through that. Yep. Okay. And yeah, absolutely. If you feel so, please know that this is a beautiful 7-day challenge, and I would, I can definitely open this up to help people one-on-one, and I would love to do that if you feel that would help. But if you are already working with a counsellor, and that counsellor is getting you somewhere, okay? Like you're not just revolving around the merry-go-round with your counsellor. If you're just going back to the counsellor and stirring over the same problem and there's no real healing and resolution, then it's like taking your car to the same mechanic and never getting the engine fixed, all right? So something to think about, but do the deep exploration. And then in the, in the worthiness, in the worthlessness, like you've got to figure out where that comes from. Like you've got to figure out the root cause trigger of where that came from, for sure. Okay. And if that's the root cause, and if you're moving into the food to feel worthy of what, then work out where the worthlessness of what came from. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Anybody else got anything else before we do the first task? No. Awesome. Good. Ladies, clean out your junk. So clearly this is a task of emotional eating, but I always use a couch analogy. I always have for a long time. I'm like, okay, so my friend Di, she had a couch inside her house, and like every day she used to walk past the couch and stub her toe. And like she did that for weeks until her toe was like black and bruised and she couldn't walk anymore. And I said to Di, why don't you just move the couch? And she's like, I didn't think of that. Okay. So if you have a trigger inside of your house, inside of your cupboards, wherever in your house, you have to get rid of it. Okay, like you have to. That's just smart. That's moving the couch. So that basically means that if it was the Tim Tams or the M&Ms or the pasta or the bread or the teas and the biscuits or the soft drinks or whatever it was your trigger, the food that you moved to when triggered, if that is inside of your house, we are going to be super smart and we are going to remove it. Cool? All right. Now, I already know that people's buttholes are tightening up because they're like, I can't throw food out. My grandma told me that I should never waste food because there are starving children in Africa, right? She did. She used to tell me that all of the time. But know this, at this time of year, there are people that are doing it super tough. So if you are getting rid of these trigger foods inside of your house, I encourage you to gift them. Take them to your local like food bank charity. Take the chocolate or the biscuits or whatever you have in your house to the nursing home. Take it to the hospital, but not to the nurses. Make sure that it gets to patients. Or gift them to nursing homes or those types of places, or to your food banks, to your food charities. Please be super smart about this in your healing, and move the couch that you keep stubbing your toe on, and remove the food that you're moving to in the trigger state. I keep giving chocolates from Kinder Children, so I'll give them forward. Absolutely. So when I was in the gym, Lisa, people always used to buy us like chocolates all the time. I'm like, I don't know what, and they used to do it in the bank too, but it was a little bit more acceptable. But in like PTing and inside of my gym, people used to always buy us like chocolates and even like Easter eggs and stuff like that. And I was just like, I don't know why you do that. So we used to actually just get them all together and then gift them. We used to gift them to one place in particular. But know that people do that because gifting makes them feel happy, and you can receive it absolutely with an open heart and say thank you so much. But for your healing here, you re-gift it because that also makes you happy. Okay? All good? Awesome. And then your day one, your next task will be up tomorrow morning. Okay, but for now, please clean out your triggers, your foods that you accidentally fall into. Cool? Awesome. I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I'll pop this recording up as soon as possible. And again, if you got great treasures out of this, please make sure that you just post up about it, what your greatest learning was. And if you can put a hashtag HEAL with HEAL as a capital, and then emotional eating. So HEAL emotional eating, capital HEAL, hashtag of course, so that I can come back on and check your posts and just love all over you for loving all over me and loving all over yourself. Have a beautiful Sunday night. See ya.